side effects may include ketoacidosis, which can be life-threatening. Stop taking and call your doctor right away if you experience symptoms.
I bet you've heard a commercial like this Invokana one before and had no idea what it was. To understand diabetic ketoacidosis, we first need to understand diabetes. Diabetes is a disease where the body destroys all the beta cells, so the pancreas produces little or no insulin, which is used to regulate blood sugar. Without insulin abundant in the bloodstream, diabetics must give themselves insulin to regulate their blood sugar. The common way to administer insulin is either through a shot or a pump, but either way is still not as effective as a pancreas. Diabetics must test their blood sugar using a meter and then give themselves enough insulin to get into the ideal blood sugar range, which is around 100 milligrams per deciliter. Lots of times, diabetics' blood sugar will spike or drop rapidly and sporadically. This is where diabetic ketoacidosis, or DKA, comes in. DKA occurs when the cells in the body cannot get enough sugar because there isn't enough insulin. Shown here is a breakdown of DKA. Without insulin, all the sugar stays in the bloodstream, so their blood sugar is high while the sugar concentration in the cells are low. This is the diabetic part of the chart. To get energy without sugar, the body begins breaking down fats and muscles, which makes ketones, which is where the prefix keto comes from. Ketones are acidic, which will lower the pH of the bloodstream and cause acidosis. When in acidosis, other chemical and bodily mechanisms begin to malfunction, hence diabetic ketoacidosis. The ketones produced end up in the urine, which is how ketoacidosis can be diagnosed. Shown here are test strips used to diagnose DKA at home. Another sign of DKA is that when a person is in DKA, often their breath smells like acetone because acetone is a type of ketone.
Furthermore, as we all know, diabetes is characterized by the body's lack of ability to make insulin. An individual who has diabetes must monitor and control their blood sugar for many reasons, one of them being that an insulin deficiency allows for large amounts of fatty acids to be released from the fat cell, this being the first step, the step that allows for the quote-unquote reactants in the mechanism that we'll describe later. Insulin is produced by our pancreas and allows for glucose to enter our cells. The process is a complicated protein-activated stepwise system shown in the image below. Further detail can be paid to this part of the process, but for the sake of our project, it's not of the utmost importance. A link has been placed below the image if you wish to know more. When extra glucose is placed into the bloodstream, it's stored in our fat cells and converted into fatty acids. When our cells need more sugar, but we don't have the glucose in our bloodstream, our bodies use the fatty acids stored in our fat cells to feed our other cells. With insulin present in our systems, this process works efficiently. Some diets have capitalized on this conversion part of our bodies, and in extreme cases, this is how our bodies stay functioning for a certain amount of time during starvation. However, without insulin, our bodies aren't able to open our cells that need sugar, and in an attempt for our bodies to correct what it sees as a lack of energy, it releases the fatty acids into our bloodstreams. So, essentially, if you understand these hexagons to be the general cells in our bodies, say the first is a brain cell, the second is a heart cell, and the third is a muscle cell, and then understand this pentagon to be a fat cell, we can visualize the process. The yellow circle insulin is present in our bloodstream, and it attaches to our cells to allow glucose to enter and be converted into energy. As we see here, as the yellow cells enter the brain, heart, muscle cells, and then the extra insulin to then enter the fat cells. So, if no insulin is present, then no glucose enters our cells. If no glucose enters our cells, our bodies send the extra fatty acids to our normal cells in an attempt to give them energy, but the fatty acids are discarded into the bloodstream because they are unable to enter the cells, and DKA is able to begin.
Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. Instead of eating this cookie, I should probably be explaining to you what happens when these sugars go into your body and what happens with the organic chemistry that occurs in diabetes and ketoacidosis.
So, as mentioned in the previous video, we have fatty acids, which our body needs to produce energy. And when energy is produced from the fatty acids, we make these molecules called acetyl-CoA. And with acetyl-CoA, produces the ketone bodies, which are part of ketoacidosis. This includes acetone, acetoacetate, and D-beta hydroxybutyrate. All of the structures are drawn following. And all of these ketone bodies are made through a process called ketogenesis, which we will also get to. But first, how does acetyl-CoA turn into these following ketone bodies? Well, it first starts with one acetyl-CoA. Another acetyl-CoA comes in and attaches itself to the carbon-oxygen bond, except the carbon because that's more electrophilic site. And then the coenzyme A also leaves in the meantime. With the use of thiolase, we can produce acetyl-acetyl-CoA, and this is also known as the condensation of two acetyl-CoAs. So another acetyl-CoA molecule comes in and attaches itself right in this middle carbon, and a water molecule also comes in, and then the oxygen becomes negative, and that's how we produce the acetyl-acetyl-CoA. And with the use of HMG-CoA synthase, which is also another enzyme, we can produce beta-hydroxy-beta-methylglutaryl-CoA, also known as HMG-CoA. And from this molecule of HMG-CoA, that's how we produce the regular ketone bodies. So we saw how you make HMG-CoA through the condensation or the production of a C-C bond or carbon-carbon bond through two acetyl-CoAs. And from there, that's how we can make the rest of our ketone bodies. So the first thing is to make acetoacetate. And what happens is this acetyl-CoA that is attached to the HMG-CoA will be a leaving group, and it will leave. And then the hydroxy group up here will turn into a double-bonded carbon-oxygen bond. So that's how we produce acetoacetate. And from acetoacetate, that's how we can produce the other two ketone bodies. So let's go to this side, the production of acetone. And what happens is that this carbon dioxide will actually be a good leaving group, and it can either occur spontaneously or it can occur through an enzyme called acetoacetate decarboxylase. So the carbon dioxide leaves, and that's how we produce acetone. And this is why you can smell it in people's breaths if they have diabetes, because it is known to be a reaction called decarboxylation. And it is also to remember that this reaction is quite infrequent. So let's go to the other side, and that's how we make the D-beta hydroxybutyrate, the third ketone body. And what happens is that there is an enzyme called D-beta hydroxybutyrate dehydrogenase that comes in, and what it does, it's a redox reaction. So it reduces the acetoacetate-CoA to form this molecule over here. And an energy molecule called NADH+, is oxidized to produce NAD+. Because it's a redox reaction, you have to have both. It is also important to remember that this is a reversible reaction, so it can go either way. And it is also important to remember that the entire production of ketone bodies happens in the liver mitochondria, and from there, that's how these ketone bodies travel in the blood, and that's how we can recognize diabetes. And also, this does not happen in a normal body, so you can't smell acetone in other people's breaths.
Now it is time for some quiz questions on diabetic ketoacidosis. Once I finish reading the questions, please go ahead and pause the video so you can answer them on a sheet of paper. The next slide will have some answers and explanations for you. If you want to refer to the video previously or change slides, please go ahead and do that in order to answer these questions better if you think that there's something that you would like to review once again. The first question is, what organ in the body produces insulin, and what does it enable the body to do? The second question, what process are ketones made in? Which are the main three ketones made? The third question, what is the structure of the final molecule that can be converted into ketones? And fourth, how is ketoacidosis diagnosed? Go ahead and answer these questions on a sheet of paper and hit the pause button before we move on to sharing some answers. Now that you've taken the time to take the quiz, we are going to discuss some answers to it. So the first question was, what organ in the body produces insulin and what does it enable the body to do? Insulin is made in the pancreas and it enables the body to process glucose in our cells to release energy. This is covered in the second part of the video if you want to go back and look at it. The second question was, what process are ketones made in and what are the three main ketones made? Ketones are actually made by a process called ketogenesis that Neethi goes into great detail with in her mechanism video if you want to go over that again. The three main ones are acetone, acetoacetate, and db-hydroxybutyrate. The third question was, what is the structure of the final molecule that can be converted into ketones? This final molecule is known as HMG-CoA, and its full form is hydroxymethylglutaryl-CoA, and its structure is shown on the screen in front of you. How is ketoacidosis diagnosed? Ketoacidosis is diagnosed by raised blood sugar levels, since it is a symptom of the body not being able to process blood sugar properly due to a lack of insulin in the blood. So I hope we could teach you something about diabetic ketoacidosis today. If you guys want to go over that video again, there is a lot of detailed information in there. If you want to just go over it a second time, it is pretty heavy. And if you want to go over the quiz questions again, please go ahead and do that. And if you have any questions, please let any of us know. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed that video.